have housekeeping. I want to make sure that everyone has their mobile device available, because we're going to make you work right after lunch. We got to keep you awake. Get you involved in this discussion about generational cohorts and communications methods and misconceptions. At Lincoln, we've done a lot of work in this area through our retirement power studies. It was great to get with Jake, having the advisor point of view, and having two plan sponsors to really talk about things that have been successful in within their HR and their benefits. And I hope that we surprise you in a good way, because really it's about omni-channel and touching these folks and understanding where you meet them, where they want to be met. So I'm going to test this polling. We are going to have you pick up your app if you've downloaded it, and then the button, you'll see it behind me, the third one down on the left is polling. So I'll give you guys a minute to dial up, and then you need to select the general education and communication. And then you want to take the polling for this session. And we're going to focus on question 1 first. So if you pull up question 1. The question is, and you can choose all that apply, have you sent generationally targeted retirement savings communications in the past year? All right, I'll give it pretty close to a 50-50, a little bit lower on the yes side, so that's good. Hopefully we can give you some good ideas for what we want to accomplish. Now let's select question 2. This is a yes or no answer. Do you send different communications to different age cohorts, such as do only those 50 plus receive a campaign regarding retirement readiness? So yes or no. All right, interestingly enough, it's a similar split, so that's great. Well, we're going to be collecting your questions throughout this session, and as things come to mind, we'll also do some more polling, and then I will get up again at the end and help facilitate a Q&A. But for now, I'm going to turn it over to Jake O'Shaughnessy.
Thank you, Sharon, and good afternoon, everyone. Sharon, I think, set up very, very well. We're going to do an examination of generational cohorts and examine the effectiveness of different methods of communication to different groups. And actually, our discussion, a lot of the research and data that we examined, actually did not prove some of the theories that I had coming into this. So I think some of the misconceptions are just as interesting as some of the things that we found to be most effective when designing a generational program. So this first chart, will it populate up on the screen here? Oh, it's over on the side, sorry. So this first chart, something you've maybe seen in the past, most of us are familiar with. Apologize, the numbers are quite small, but what's indicated here is that the millennial generation, those born in the 80s and 90s, this is now the largest segment of the US workforce. This is through 2017, and there were 56 million millennials in the workforce. That compares with 53 million Gen Xers. This is my generation. Gen Xers had a very, very short run as the largest proportion of the workforce. It lasted about 5 years. You look at this though, and interestingly, within the last decade, we've gone from boomers being the largest segment of the workforce, those approaching retirement. We had this sort of blinking of the eye, if you will, where Gen Xers were the largest segment. Now we have millennials as the largest component, and that is only going to grow here in the near future. Another item to keep your eye towards is at the bottom there, post-millennials. They're approaching 10 million post-millennials in the workforce today. So those of you that don't have a 2065 target date fund, you should really consider adding such a product to your plan. And finally, the greatest generation, my grandfather, those that fought in World War II, you can see that they are becoming a very, very small and diminishing portion of the workforce. So as we set the table here, you can see that there's three cohorts that we focused in on, those being millennials, Gen Xers, and boomers, for obvious reasons. Let's see here. So let's dive in first to the millennial segment of the workforce. Again, there's different definitions of what it may be to be a millennial. We kind of just took a broad approach here. If you're born in the 80s and 90s, that's kind of the group we're trying to capture. You know, this is the largest segment of the workforce currently. And interestingly, this portion of the workforce actually seems to be the most likely to take assistance, to take guidance, to use a target date fund. But interestingly, they also want tons of access to information. If you provide them information, get them comfortable that you're a trustworthy source, a lot of them are willing to turn the keys over to the retirement plan sponsor. And I think, my personal assessment, this is the first generation that really clearly understands the amount that they save and the way that they save is going to really control their retirement destiny. My father had a pension, and so when I began to work, I'd never experienced firsthand what it's like for somebody to essentially save one pot of money and live off that forever. Many millennials are seeing their parents grapple with a 401k or a deferred compensation plan, and that is forcing them to examine and evaluate these plans, I think, in a different fashion than other segments of the population. These saving habits are very, very important to establish early. Okay, and we grapple with auto enrollment, easy enrollment. How do you get people in plans? But again, if we get to have one takeaway, make sure your millennials are participating in the plan, even if you have to put them into a product, which is a target date or a managed account. Some aspects of the millennial workforce here. Again, providing access to information. They can access it through their smartphone. We'll talk a little bit later. Millennials don't sort of get the misconception that they don't like print materials. Millennials still want print materials, just like the baby boomer generation uses the internet and Instagram more than we might think. So don't, again, have those misconceptions. Another item that gets millennials more excited about investing than other generations are sort of values-based investments. One of the more popular is socially responsible investing. But if that's a way to get people engaged in their retirement through having these value-based funds, we think that that's something you should not, you should consider adding to your program. Help them determine those initial contribution rates. You know, I see a lot of programs who sort of get somebody in the plan, they put a lot of effort into auto-enroll, easy enroll, and then they enroll them at $25 a pay and never revisit that, okay? Be very, very cautious about the trajectory you're setting these people on and put them on a good path. And again, once you do that initial effort to get them in the plan, check in once in a while with these people just to make sure that they stay on course or increase savings as appropriate. So let's dive in and get a little bit more. A couple things that rise to the top based on the survey information, and I want to give a big tip of the cap to Sharon and her team at Lincoln Financial for a lot of the research that they did here. But millennials really like investments. They like investment information. They want to get that information from the plan provider. Nearly 6 in 10 cite their employer or the plan sponsor as their primary source of information. You know, let that sink in. We in this room are their experts. So make sure that you're providing the necessary resources and tools. And this is another interesting fact. You know, 4 in 10 say that they are a source of investment advice to their friends and family. So that is, you know, something very, very powerful. You know, creating a campaign to say, do you want to be the investment expert within your network? These are important things to millennials. Millennials also use financial professionals to a very, very high degree. Let's move forward just in the interest of time here. Examine Gen X. This is my generation. This is somewhat of a transitional generation. You know, again, they are moving away from the defined benefit world into a defined contribution realm. Many in this room, again, we still deal with the defined benefit because we're employed by governmental employers that offer that. But one thing which is uniform to this generation is the competition for their dollars. You know, many in this Gen X are right now saving for retirement. Many may be still paying off their own student loans, trying to save for their children's college in the future. Actually, many, 11% in fact, report that they are supporting an older family member. So there's a ton of competition for the discretionary dollar available to Gen X. So one of the items we're seeing, which is effective, is to give them tools to analyze how best to spend their dollars. Should I pay off my student loans before I continue to save in the 457? Am I better off to pay off a 30% credit card debt than to contribute to the 457? Again, helping them analyze that, helping them get to a place where they can feel comfortable saving more and getting them tools in that regard. Showing them the impacts. How much longer are you going to have to work if you don't increase your savings rate? These are very, very powerful tools for Gen X. And again, another item which our generation is going to have to tackle is healthcare. Do you have a health savings vehicle? Post-employment health plan? These kind of features are very, very important to present, communicate to Generation X, help them be engaged with saving and envisioning what retirement looks like for them. Again, drilling in a little bit. 6 in 10 millennials, shifting back a little bit, report that they're saving less in their retirement plan because of student loans. 13% of Americans are reporting debt is a major problem to them, and 6 in 10 are reporting that it's a problem in general. So you can really begin to see how providing them tools beyond just, hey, if you save 8% in your 401k, these are the benefits, rather become their financial resource and show them the benefits of prioritizing their debts. Again, and another item which I found very, very interesting is those with a goal to budget and pay down debt are also very, very likely to save at higher rates in the plan. For example, 55% of those that reported they have a goal to pay down debt are saving 10+%, right? Versus 39 that don't have a goal. So you can very clearly see those with a mission to pay down debt tend to be much more engaged in their plan and save more. Finally, the baby boomer generation. You know, again, these are the folks that are approaching retirement. One item we mentioned before, you know, you see it at the bottom here. Baby boomers have iPads, text messaging, email, Instagram. So let's not undersell the fact that this generation is pretty literate as far as the internet and you know, social media goes. You want to make sure that these folks have access to retirement planning tools, that they know how much is enough to save and how they can access and appropriately draw down their savings in retirement. They frequently overpay for advice if there isn't something offered inside the retirement plan. And I know a lot of plan sponsors are leery about offering something like a managed account. But the reality is, I bet a lot of your people are going to seek that advice. So why not provide a solution which is cost-effective and prudent within your program and in your plan? We have our next set of polling questions here. And then I'm going to turn it back over to Sharon. Do you want to? Or
No,
could,
I guess
we'll
just go
We'll
right
just
down the
roll
line.
on.
Okay.
All right, guys, you ready?
And-
We know the drill here. So, first question is, what type of participant communications do you currently
Nobody saw that.
send to select all that apply? Hard copy mailers, emails, web messages, text messages, and you can pick more than one. All right, still mail is still there, web, emails is most prevalent, and texting is emerging, sounds like. And then we'll do one more polling and see how this impacts the direction of the conversation. So if you want to pull up question 4, can your employees elect which manner they prefer to receive communication? So a preference center, text, email, regular mail, etc. This is a yes or no. All right, so more than half have omni-channel. That's great. Or about, just about half. Well, great. I'll turn it over now to Cindy. Thank you.
Oops. Sure. That was somewhat yours.
Just go through it.
Okay.
Some of the slides were
All right, well, this one might be harder for me to go through, actually. So this was on Jake's slides.
Sorry.
I'm like, I don't want to mess it up,
So
sadly.
a couple observations we had on this data here. If you look at the third item down, one-on-one in-person meetings, our intuition was that baby boomers, Gen Xers, would really prefer those, but actually the largest need expressed for one-on-one in-person meetings was from millennials. However, to a millennial, one-on-one meeting is not a belly-to-belly, person-to-person conversation. What do you think they use? FaceTime. FaceTime is a one-on-one meeting. So don't discount offering one-on-one meetings, but it might take a different form than in the past. So again, I'd encourage you to look through this, but this is where many of the misconceptions, whether it be about boomers or millennials, are really debunked by data. So thanks, Cindy.
Cool. Okay, so what are we up to in Missouri? First, in Missouri, we you know, you guys have seen all the data, the national data, and what we believe is going on with millennials, boomers, Gen Xers like myself. But we have to really get down to what are actual Missourians doing, what do they want, because those are the folks we're trying to market to and educate. So we ask our actual employees. So annually, we do a survey. Every early September, we do a survey, and we have 3 surveys, and they're age cohort surveys, for the actives 35 and under, the actives 36 and older, and then we also send a survey to the term retired folks 55 and older. And we have a lot of great participation. There's a little bribery with some Amazon gift cards and some gifts and chairs, and well, this year we're doing chairs and some cutting boards, cool stuff. But we have to bribe them because we get really good participation, and which, you know, and they're fairly honest too, which I'll get to those results here in a second. But, you know, last year we had over 1,000 folks in the millennial group, and over 5,500 in the Gen Xer group, if you will, the middle age or the mid-career group, and then over 1,600 in the retiree term group. So impressive. This year, actually, which our results should be complete by the end of this month, we've already increased those numbers by about 20% in each category. So we're getting lots of good participation from that crew. So we asked them, and this is last year's question. We don't have print on here, but we asked them, what's your preferred method of communication? And you'll see that the bulk are going to say, we like a combo between text message and email. They seem really lean, especially the younger folks. They really dig the text message. They really dig email. Not as much as the 55 and older group dig email. They really, I mean, I was surprised to see that email is the main channel in that group. But takeaway from the whole thing is multiple channels. They want to view it multiple ways. You have to deliver targeted messaging to all these groups in a variety of ways. And we do that. All right. Survey results, they're going to drive our future education and marketing efforts. You know, here's just a few items from last year's survey. Like, for example, 15% of the folks under 35 said they're not saving for retirement. I mean, we are auto-enrolling them, but clearly some of them snuck out. But anyway, and there may be some folks in there that have been around. You know, auto-enrollment was only started in July of 12, so. Nonetheless, that's what they claim. And some of my favorite answers are, let's see here, state they did not have a retirement plan or a retirement savings plan or strategy. So you'll see in the folks that have already retired, hindsight's 2020, only 20% claim that they did not have a retirement strategy, but the more honest folks, the 35 and unders, are like, yeah, I have got nothing going on. About 50% of us, we're just kind of hoping you guys figure it out, and that's what we plan to do, hopefully. Other questions that we think are more interesting in this year's survey, we find that, and we love this one, by the way, 17% of all actives, and this is across like the millennials and the Gen Xers, do not ever look at their pay stub. Weird, but that's happening. So they have no clue as to deductions, so we can clearly auto-enroll them. They won't notice. Just like, it's whatever, which is fine. Another thing with regard to how they prefer their information, they all prefer at least 80%, or I should say 75 to 80%, prefer presentations under an hour. Nobody wants to sit around in a room for 2+ hours. It's usually over lunch. That's what they want. Some of them claim that they want to see videos that are 3 to 5 minutes long. I'm going to call, on that because we can barely get them, retention of, less than 2 minutes. But I know Brooke and Kelsey, who work with me, they think they're likening it to a music video. And it's like, oh yeah, I'd watch a music video for 3 to 5 minutes. Well, when it's about your benefits, it's another story. So anyway, and then we did a few financial literacy questions this year, which were really cool as to the answers. The millennials, interestingly enough, and these are Missourians too, this is not national, survey by any means. The millennials, about 4% of them claim to have an advanced understanding of investing. 6% of the Gen X crew, that mid-career crew, claim to have an advanced understanding. And the 55 and older crew said 12% did. So maybe there's something there with wisdom, perhaps. And then another one that some of you will find interesting, the inverse relationship between bond prices and interest rates. Less than 20% answered that question correctly, so just so you know. But anyway, I could go on and on and on with all the fun statistics. But again, we survey our employees. That's going to help us figure out exactly how we have to communicate with them. So how do we communicate with them? Just quickly on the many, many different ways. Face-to-face, we do about 7,000 individual consultations a year. We do 9 different seminars. We're actually going to decrease the size of those this year. But anyway, we did about 475 last year, reaching about 13,000-ish people. We still do print, publications, forums, newsletters, even enrollment postcards, which surprisingly work sometimes. And online, we have a major online presence. Our group in Missouri does a lot of good work, web, email, text, app, social media, major social media presence. And all of this is going to include any text, forms, publication content, and video content that we do. Send about 1.2 million emails a year, 9,000 texts. We're reaching folks. As to whether that has results amongst these age cohorts, we like to think it does. I mean, our numbers tell us that between the 35 and under group and up to the 36 to 49 group, we'll have a 75% increase in that contribution rate, average contribution rate, and so on between the mid-career up to the 50 and over actives. We've seen a 64% in their contribution rate. And as you see, the median is, approximately, we continue to see increases. I'm not saying it's always tied to what we do, but I think we bother them enough that they just give up, so. So publications, what we have found in all of our surveys is across all generation, folks want it simpler. Simpler, simpler. Please simplify everything you give me. And one of our questions this past year was, if I were able to provide you what you need, a single-page document that had the most vital information, would you rather have that versus multiple pages? 70+% said absolutely, single-page document. So what we've done over the past year is reduce our plan overview down to from 8 pages to 2 pages. We have reduced our Roth 457 doc from 4 pages to 1 page. We make the enrollment postcards a lot simpler, check a box, send it back. And there's always puppies and kitties. Nobody likes to see other people. It's, puppies, things like that. And our newsletter is just a 2-pager, and it's always called Simply Put, because, again, simplify, simplify. That's what we like. And there's, there's going to be messaging that's going to be targeted to a certain demographic, age cohort amongst those as well. All right. And a couple examples of emails that we do. We hit the new employees with, this is, my polling question is here. All right, so the polling question.
We were a little surprised with the placement of the polling questions, in case you can't tell.
Yeah, and I thought I looked in.
I got it right here. Your moderator is here to help. Go to polling question number 5. It says, have you surveyed your own employees, participants by age group to determine communication preferences? Yes or no? So an opportunity. So far.
There's lots of opportunities here. See what your employees are up to.
All right, so mostly no. So
Looks like, well, okay. We're getting there. Oh, here we go. Okay, so quickly on email examples, we send emails to new employees. What we want these new employees to basically know is, and we use the lemonade cup here, and that is for your average employee that's going to stick around and receive our defined benefit plan and Social Security, we're a Social Security state, that they're going to replace approximately 70%. You got to take all this other squishy stuff in there, and that's about 60% of our folks say that they take Social Security is 62, while, don't forget the whole, in 2034, 77% of benefits will be paid by Social Security. So we have to think about that. So it's an estimate that they're going to replace about 70% of their income. And you have to also think we're in Missouri, and our average retiree is retiring with pre-retirement income of $40,000 a year. So if it's only going to be 70%, that's $28,000 a year. So how are you going to pay for health insurance, basic living expenses? So that's where we try to convey in said email to new employees that, you know, this is what you need to replace, an additional 10% of income to replace, you know, 25 years in retirement, et cetera. So, and how much that is, what percentage that is of salary. So anyway, it actually works. And, oops. And Brooke Rowden and Kelsey Harris, they spend a lot of time getting this out to new employees, and our opt-out rates and automatic enrollment have reduced dramatically. And we also are reaching out to retirees as well, just another example, and that's, you know, quickly keep your savings in the plan, or I should say pre-retirees. And if you're gonna roll money over, watch out for fraud, watch out for fees, all that good stuff. And we have good engagement, 35% open rate on the new employees, and the retirees in terms, or pre-retirees in terms, a little bit higher. They just seem to be more concerned. As you know, they really care about retirement, considering that they're either preparing to or are in retirement. All right, and our favorite medium, and this is my last slide, and something we've been doing for several years now, and that's amateur in-house video, and you know, this is sent via email, links via text, and our crew does a really great job. You know, these first began with someone just sitting in front of a camera and talking at it, and yeah, maybe that wasn't all that exciting, but it was evolving over the years. So past staff and current staff, Brooke Rowden and Kelsey Harris, they do a lot of good work, and these are just a few examples of the 130 plus videos that have been produced over the years. Early career, mid-career, late career, and again, a few examples. And we just started doing the targeted videos going on 2.5, 3 years ago. And we're just targeting these different age cohorts on a quarterly basis via this email that they receive from their HR, from us as well, so we hit them twice. And it's called a DC update, so, and it's just general education for those age cohorts, and it's kind of cool. So, so let's watch a few, or I should say two, since we're gonna run out of time. Hey, can we get the early career video? And sometimes they're cheesy. Millennials.
That's really good.
And then if we can throw in one more, the late career, and then I'll jump off here. Which should be that pig one at the top, yeah.
Time's a-wasting. Wasting in the sense that with every passing day, your future retirement draws closer and closer, but possibly further out of your reach. Why? Because if you're like 36% of Missouri retirees, you won't be able to afford to retire due to a lack of savings and will be forced to continue working. As long as you're vested, you'll have your defined benefit pension and Social Security providing you with income in retirement, but it's simply not going to be enough to get you through. This is why it's so important to save additional money throughout your career with the state. So what are you to do if you haven't been saving enough? Well, you're not alone. Only 8.6% of state employees are very confident that they are building a large enough nest egg for retirement, while 49% are not confident at all. The IRS allows those close to retirement to stop wasting time and put away additional money, well past the $18,000 annual contribution
last year,
limit,
by the
in
way.
order to catch up on their retirement savings. In fact, Missouri savers age 50 and over can contribute a total of $24,000 into their deferred comp account, and those within 3 years of retirement can contribute a whopping $36,000 during the 2017 tax year. These lofty limits are designed to help behind-scheduled savers make up for any retirement shortfalls by bumping up the amount they can invest during the years leading up to retirement. While they may seem out of reach, they simply are an option for those participating in the Moderator comp plan. Time's a-wasting, so log into your Moderator comp account, boost your retirement contributions, and start saving a little bit more.
All right, so that was from 2017, but you get the idea. All right. So. All right. But yeah, the crew has tons of other videos, and they do an amazing job. But I'll let Hyun get started on University of California.
Okay, I'm totally stealing those videos. They're going to be on my website. Hi, everybody. I'm from the University of California, and for those of you who don't know, we have a plan that covers just the University of California employees, and that would be faculty and staff that work at our 10 campuses. And that's UCLA and Berkeley, but there are actually some other campuses like UC Riverside, UC Irvine, up and down the state. And then we also have 5 medical centers. Our plan, our DC plan has about 300,000 unique participants. Before I get started, we're going to have our last polling question.
All right, I'm up.
Okay.
No pressure. What generational group have you found the most difficult to call to action with respect to retirement savings? Please select and answer. Millennials, Gen X, Boomers, retirees.
Okay. All right, I think that's pretty much what we expected. We expected millennials to be the largest group, and that is exactly what we're experiencing at University of California. You know, part of the problem is that at UC, we've kind of been ignoring the millennials, and they just kind of surprised us. And looking at, you know, the data, they now make up the largest portion of our workforce. So what we did was, in 2018, we started to really focus on them with one of our biggest annual campaigns. And what we do every year is we, you know, send out an email or postcard with updated information on what we call the retirement review. It's something we've been sending out for years in paper form, and now we have it online, interactive, including a modeling tool. So what the retirement review does is that it brings together your expected pension benefit, as well as your expected voluntary savings amount, and it pulls them together, and it expresses in a dollar amount what you can expect to have every month. So you could have $5,000. And obviously it's customized or personalized for every person, every individual. And it also is expressed in as a percent of your pay, of your current pay. It gives some people some people can just kind of digest information differently, and it's easier to think in terms of, well, how much of what I am bringing home now or that I make now will I have in retirement? So we offer both of those numbers, the monthly income amount as well as the percent of your current pay. In the past, and this is an email, there's more to it at the bottom. In the past, our campaigns, and really this is an annual notice to tell you your retirement review has been updated, go out, check it, see how much you're expected to get. If it's not enough for you, what can you do to bring it to that level that is going to get you that comfortable retirement? In the past, we featured images of a really, sort of happy life in retirement. We focused on happy seniors, on, pictures, images of the beach and palm trees and travel and, hanging out with dogs. And the message was always, will you have enough? So we tried a different approach this year, and as you can see, we used a much younger demographic. We featured an iPad, a little bit more sort of up to date, versus a laptop or a desktop. And the messaging was really about what are the little things you can do today to have a better tomorrow. So we were talking about making things feasible instead of, are you going to have enough? It's more, these are the things you can be doing today. So we say that it's ready, and when you scroll up on the email, it has 3 things for you to do, and that is to log in, see how much you're on track to get. Number 2, if it's not enough, or if you don't think you're going to be sticking around long enough to get that pension amount, model some different things, like what if you retire at a different age? What if you change your contribution amounts? And if you're not even enrolled, what if you enrolled? And then the third step is take that action, whatever it is. Obviously you can't take the action of retiring any later at this point, but if you modeled higher deferral rates, contribution rates, here's a button, take the action right now. The results were really good. We had the highest number of logins to view the retirement review. And again, login is not clicking on the email and reading it, it's actually typing in your username and password, and we had a 25% increase over the last year. We did not send out different versions to the different generations. We just wanted to see how this would work. And so in 2019, we do plan on sending out more customized messaging for the different groups. We felt that, millennials being the toughest sell, we really needed to engage them. Everyone else would still read the email. So they are the people who are older are interested in retirement messages, and the millennials, we had to really kind of customize it. Okay. The other, I won't call it a case study, but initiative that we are currently working on is experience grouping our action steps and financial education resources. So we have a website that brings together information about all of our retirement benefits. It's the pension, it's retirement, the voluntary savings program, but it's also retiree health. So it has information on all of those plans, and it also has links to all of our transactional websites, to view your balances, change your contributions, estimate your pension amount, benefit amount. There's a lot going on our current site. There's a lot of information. So what we are working on right now, and these are, I'm going to show you a couple screenshots, this is one of them, is really helping people get to the information that's relevant to them. So with this new homepage, you have 2 ways of getting to the information. The first is just the traditional, use the navigation bar. Things are organized by topic. You can't read them, but they're primary retirement benefits, voluntary, retiree health, retirement income estimates, and classes and counseling. And there are a lot of pages organized below that. But then the middle section is a new way that we are helping get, guiding people to the right information, and that's choosing a track to see information and next steps for people like you. We don't use exactly the same generational cuts that we've shown in this presentation, but these tie pretty closely. We have new to UC, new hires, working and saving, ready to retire, and then in retirement. So when you click on new to UC, it opens up a page. It's a message that says, welcome, we're glad you chose UC. Now's the time to choose your primary retirement benefit. So the first thing you see are 3 very important actions that a new hire needs to take. And the first is choose your mandatory retirement benefit. We have a pension choice or a savings choice, which was introduced in 2016. The second thing is to consolidate your plans, roll over your previous employer's plans. And the third is to consider saving more. And this is old. We actually flipped the 2 because considering saving more is more important. And then you scroll down the page, and there will be a section that says, here are resources to help people like you. So we keep saying people like you, hoping that it will resonate, engage, and appeal. And then there are 3 sections, I want to. And these are the most, popular actions that a new hire will want to take. The must-read list for a new hire, it would just be information about our plans so that people can better comprehend what benefits are offered. And then the last section is related classes, videos, and tools, and those are more engaging options to learn the same content. One of the things that we would do for a new hire, because a lot of them are going to be the young millennials, is we'll have a link to a video about needing help with student debt. So we will be building out similar content for all the different life stages. It's essentially just kind of eliminating the noise, isolating the messages, and really outlining the next steps, because people all want to be told what to do, even though they don't want to admit that. So that's what we're trying to do. We're really excited, and hopefully I can come back and report on the results. Thank you.
You guys were very active on your phones. I'm going to have to be selective on some of the questions, but I tried to group them together so we can get as many as we can. So before I get to the questions that you fielded, really, we're here to help you apply it to your organizations. There's many of you that are not surveying your employees, and even at Lincoln, we're in ours, and they use it to drive our own workforce from a corporate level, and try new ideas. There's a bunch of things in here on Cindy's videos. They want to know if they're on YouTube.
Yeah, they're on YouTube.
Oh, see, there you go.
Go to modeferredcomp.org, and that's where, yeah.
All right, and then serve up messages and images targeted to each demographic. So I'm going to start there because we started with generational, right? And then we started with engaging messages. And I'm going to, Jake, since you see a lot of different types of clients, one of the questions that came in was, beyond generational, do you look at job types so that people can look at people like me. So, for example, public safety versus healthcare versus manufacturing. Do you see that with your clients, working with their providers to really tailor beyond that and really do the people like me segmentation?
Yes, but there's a danger, and we've been talking a lot about segmenting by age, and that is just one very blunt way to slice and dice the market. I would definitely suggest a more matrixed approach, right? I know people that are millennials that don't really like to engage via email. They might like in-person conversations, just like you like baby boomers who, they may prefer to do a FaceTime. So the key to me is if you get some information about how somebody prefers to receive their information, have different types, but fit them into that type and remember what type they are, if that makes sense. So don't come in with a predisposition. That's the key. Have flexibility, and again, once you understand somebody prefers to have their one-on-ones through FaceTime, make sure that in the future you propose it in FaceTime to make it easier for them to accept that.
Great. Yeah, and I'm going to ask you the next question. So you do a lot through email. So how do you collect the emails, and do you allow employees to choose between their work and personal if you're providing the work email to your provider?
We pass along, so our communications, the fulfillment is through our record keeper Fidelity. So we pass work emails, and then we also, you go into Net Benefits, the transaction site, and you can add a personal email address and indicate your preference. For really important messages like the annual retirement review announcement, we choose. We want all of these to go to the work emails, but we reserve it for the most important messages.
And then Cindy, how did you get your videos through compliance? What type of approval process did you have to launch those videos?
Oh, Brooke. Should I tell him the right answer? Well, I don't know. We don't have to really go through compliance unless it's, of course, because we do them in-house. So yes, my number one rule is no cursing clearly in the videos. That wouldn't look good.
That's a good number one.
But at the same time, it's really just making sure that the information is accurate, and it's reviewed by multiple folks. Just it's accurate, and then we make sure that we are citing the correct sources, whether we're clearly IRS, et cetera. But luckily, we don't have to go through multiple levels, which one would likely have to go through if this was being produced via a record keeper.
Okay. There's a question here that I'm actually going to take a stab at answering because we have some experience with it. Another question about targeting single people is different than married or people with children. Does anyone do this? We recently started using household data that's readily available. So you can find out whether somebody's single, married, or other, and then particularly if they have children in the household, we can tailor our personalization based upon that third-party information. So I'll now open it up to the panel. Does anyone have any experience with, again, getting into more the usage of data, whether you're trying to go after a single household, married household, children?
I don't have any experience, but it seems like a pretty determining factor as to somebody's receptibility to the information you broadcast. Again, and the other things I've heard around that are, I mentioned adult parents living back at home. The other is disabled children. There's a lot of focus on workers with disabled children and how they manage that aspect to their life. So those are two factors I have seen be implemented more and more.
I think when it looks like you have targeted based on things like that, it can seem a little creepy.
Sure.
So
Amazon doesn't seem to mind.
But I mean, I agree with Jake that you need to do many different cuts. We do a special nurses campaign during Nurses Week. We are doing something with first generation. I'll call them the segment of our workforce who this is they're the first ones in their family to not only go to college, but to also be in a job that offered benefits. Mm-hmm. So they didn't grow up with a 401k or, a pension and they're just not very familiar with it. So it's really about going out to their specific departments and educating them on the basics. What are you getting from UC and what do you need to do?
Great. All right, the next one is for Cindy. Targeting communications to different age groups seems costly, more costly than creating a one-size-fits-all communication message. Is it more costly? If so, who pays the cost? The administrator or the plan sponsor?
It's not more costly. Technically, it's our in-house group, and well, they get their salaries, if you will. And I mean, we're just putting in the work, that this is what's on the agenda, and this, we want to produce this. There was always a one-size-fits-all, as you know, clearly, with regard to a lot of publications. But the agenda is we want to produce age cohort defined contribution updates on a quarterly basis, and we want those to be in both text and video, and and it's sent via email and text, and it's just there's no additional cost. Like I said, the in-house video, and I may have not really explained that very thoroughly, but it's all amateur, and there is a little bit of production cost with the initial equipment that had to be purchased, lighting, camera, but I'm sure Brooke would be happy to chat with anybody after this as to that minimal cost.
She might be getting multiple job offers.
I know, she's going to run away right now, probably. She's like, I don't want to talk to you people. But one-time cost in most cases, and then we just work from there. Adobe Premiere is the program that we use in-house to build said videos, but yeah.
Can I,
Yes,
one
sure.
comment I would add on that is that regardless of, well, maybe not regardless, but the vast majority of record keepers that you're likely to be working with have a very broad suite of tools here. So if they aren't proactively promoting that to you, even if you're a $1 million plan, you don't have to be a $24 billion plan to get this. They all have it, okay? So the cost may be your time and your effort to deploy those resources. But if you're working with somebody that hasn't, and you don't understand the capabilities your record keeper has, ask them, and they have it somewhere. You may need to push them, and you may need to own some of the process, but from a cost perspective, there are frequently some low or no cost ways to implement some pretty neat targeted messaging campaigns.
That's a good point.
I
And
would
they
agree
do
with
have the
that.
data.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would agree that most providers can do some level of targeting even on your website. And then a lot of us do national campaigns that are omni-channel that we offer to all of our clients. And then we may do something custom for a larger client that has it within their budget. But I would agree technology has come a long way.
Thank you. And one other point I would say is, if you go through this effort to set up a campaign, you want to have a measurement process. And it's very likely only your record keeper can do that. So when we talk about call to action, okay, you want the record keeper to understand this person went through the retiree track, they clicked on them, am I ready to retire, and they made a change or not. And that only through that mechanism can you adjust your programs as appropriate. So don't lose sight of the measurement factor, and I don't know how you do that without the help of your record keeper.
We don't have a question here, but we have a statement. Minnesota has first dibs on Brooke.
Yeah, well, Mark Mannion, that'll be enough
Just
of
want
you.
to let you know. Anyone else? Should we turn this into an auction? $500 for Brooke. Who are I getting one for $550? Gentleman in the back, $675. All right, well, let's wrap it up with one more question, and I'll start with Hyun on this one. Women typically need to save more for retirement. They live longer, tend to be that sandwich generation. Does anyone provide targeting specifically to women? I'll go down the line.
Absolutely, we do. We have a workshop tailored to women, and it's really about attending a class with people that you're just comfortable with. And it's almost like a women's only gym. We also had a webcast, and it's not so much that they need to save more. They just need, more confidence and to be more engaged in not the household finances, because they're already running the households, but with the investing. So we definitely reach out to women.
It's so funny you should mention that because our group in-house, Brooke, Kelsey, and then our education specialists out in the field, they just recently completed a quarterly campaign, or in the midst of completing a quarterly campaign that consisted of outreach to women with regard to emails, newsletters, text messages, videos, et cetera, and just basically letting them know, because in Missouri, sadly, their balances are significantly lower than men's. Their contribution rate is significantly lower than men, but at the same time, they need to save more because they're planning on living longer, I imagine. So, and we've had really good results, and I know it's not 100% complete as of yet since it's through the end of September for this quarter, but it's been very successful, and hopefully they appreciate that we've been trying to reach out and plan to make it a regular effort, so.
Jake, we'll have you close us out here. Bring us home.
On that, well,
Please.
I would just say we have the experts here now. From a data standpoint, I think they indicated women seem more likely to be interested in savings rates than investments. Men seem to be more interested in what kind of investments do you have, blah, blah, blah. Women seem to be more interested in how much should I be saving to get to my goal. So I think that's one nuance that we've observed. But you know, the other comment, we have 3 females up here, so I'm glad the industry is focused on this aspect because it's a very, very important part to our society.
Well, we want to thank you all for your attention this afternoon. Let's give our panelists a round of applause.